Hello YouTubers and fellow hams. This is my QSL card. For those of you that aren't hams, these are the cards that we exchange to verify we made contact, and we can collect them and show them off for long distance contacts and so on. I had these printed, 12 years ago. And they're wrong. I'm living in Arizona now, and this still shows Indiana. So I'm going to make new QSL cards today, and I'm going to have them printed online. But you could also make the image and use it with eQSL as your uploaded image. And we are going to do it in Inkscape. I'm going to show you how easy it is to make your own QSL cards in Inkscape. Let's get started. Okay, I'm using Inkscape version 1.4, the latest version available at the time of filming this video. This is the QSL card that I have created, and I'm going to show you how I made it. Looks nice, doesn't it? So let's close that document. And we're going to start out with a new document in Inkscape. And I'm going to give you just a real quick little overview of where things are in Inkscape. Over here on the left are all of your tools for drawing. Shapes, different pen tools and text, various fill tools, patterns and things. All your drawing tools are over here. At the top here is your selection tools. We're on the selection arrow right now, which is the one you use to select objects with. This is a node tool for editing objects. We're not going to get into that with this tutorial. This is going to be a little more straightforward. When you select a tool over here, you will see options for the tool up here at the top. Dimensions and different things that apply to that tool. Down at the bottom is a range of color palettes that you can quick select colors with. Over here at the right are some functions that you would do off the menus normally, like saving, opening, printing, cut, copy, paste, and all that, which you can do with the keyboard, but their icons are for over here for that as well. Up here at the top is a snapping tool. This is important. We'll be using this off and on through our document. So that's roughly where the tools are in Inkscape. Over here on the right will be a panel with various information once I open it. We'll get to that in a moment. First, we're going to set up our document. This is a standard opening document. We're going to set this size to match our QSL card, so we'll have a nice visual reference of the card that we can work within while we are editing. I'm going to come up here to the File menu. I'm going to come down here to Document Properties. Now in the Document Properties window, we set the size of our page. There are some default sizes here. I'm going to be setting it custom. I'm in the US, and the common size for QSL cards is 5.5 inches wide and 3.5 inches tall. You can use whatever measuring format you want, but you want to set this to match your QSL card. So I'm going to change this to inches. And I'm going to change the width to 5.5 and the height to 3.5. So now our document will match what we're expecting for our QSL card, and there it is. Now, we are going to be doing some drawing on this, and we're going to import some images, and we're going to put some text on it, and all kinds of goodies. First I want to introduce you to a concept called layers. I'm going to come up here to the Object menu, and I'm going to select Layers and Objects. That's going to open this panel over on the right that I was mentioning earlier. Various settings are going to be over here in this panel on the right under Tabs, and this is the tab for Layers. We have one layer right now, Layer 1. Layers are like onion skins for animation, or like a deck of cards that are transparent, and you put things on each of the cards. And the camera is looking down from the top through the stack. So if I create another layer, anything that I put on layer 2 will be over the top of layer 1. So if I have a square on layer 2, and I have a circle on layer 1, and the square overlays the circle, I won't see the circle under it, because I won't see through the square. So That's important. We can use that to our advantage, as you'll see a little later when we go to put some shaded areas under our text boxes. But right now, I've just created another layer. I've got 2 layers. This one at the bottom here, I'm going to name that by double-clicking on it, and I'm going to call that background. Now, this looks like we've got a white piece of paper here, but this is just a visual reference for us of our document. There's actually nothing there but transparency. And since I'm going to be using white cardstock for my QSL card, I want to make a white rectangle to fill this space. It looks like there's one there now, but this is just a visual representation of the page. There's actually nothing there. So we're going to make our first object, and it's just going to be a white rectangle. So I'm picking the rectangle tool. I'm going to come up here and make sure this magnet is turned on, the snapping magnet, because that'll allow me to snap to the corner of our, see how the X just sort of snapped there? Let me zoom in here a little bit. See how the handle just snapped to that corner? That's going to ensure, I'm using Control and the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. That's going to ensure that my box is going to start on that corner. I'm going to click and drag, and you can kind of see it when I drag outside there, but I'm going to let it snap to this handle. I must have misclicked. I didn't get my start point where I wanted it to. That's okay. We can fix that. I'll go to the Edit Selector tool. I'll pick this resizer. This is our box. And I'm going to bring that up until it snaps to this corner. Might have to snap it to the edges. Sometimes it's picky like that. There we go. When you click on an object, you get these resizer arrows, and you can scale it in any direction. You can see that snapped to the edge of the page. Okay, I'm going to name this rectangle over here that we just created in the layers. It's kind of important to do this as you go when you build up an object. Name things over here, because that will be so much easier later on to know what's what when we're moving things around and positioning stuff and layering things. So I'm going to call this page white. And that's at the very bottom. Now, like I said, this looks like there's nothing there, but there's actually a white box there now. And I'm going to show you a couple of other tools that we'll be using, stroke and fill. So I'm going to come back up here to the object menu, and I'm going to pick fill and stroke. And we're going to get a new tab over here, fill and stroke. Here's our layers tab, and here, this little pen icon on a page is our fill and stroke tab, and that's where we can set things like fill and stroke. Right now, this box is filled solid with a flat color. I'll change the color. So you can see it. See? It doesn't look very vivid because there's opacity set here. This remembers the opacity that I used the last time I had the program open. Let's make it not transparent. 100% opaque. There we go. So now you can see we actually have a green rectangle that's filling our page. So that's our background. But I'm going to be using a white cardstock. So I'm going to set this back to white. I'll just bring luminescence all the way up to 100% there. And now we are white. This is transparency or opacity. We can make it transparent. We'll make sure that's at 100% opaque. And we have our white background. Okay, so we've got our white background. What shall we do next? Well, let's make an image for our background. Now, there are several web resources. I'm living in Arizona right now, so I went to Freepik, FREEPIK.com, and I searched for desert SVG. I usually search for scalable vector graphics because those are resolution independent, meaning they're objects, they're arcs and lines that are calculated. So it doesn't matter what your pixel resolution is. You can zoom in or make them as big as you want, and they'll never get chunky. And I found this image, desert landscape, that I liked, which is free. This is a website of free media. So I liked this image, and I downloaded it. And once I had it downloaded, I went over to Inkscape again. and we're going to import that image. So I'm going to come up here to File, and I'm going to say, well, first off, let's go back to Layers. Okay, I'm on my background layer. That's where I want my image to go. So if I had this selected, I would have wanted to select this before I import. File, Import, Desert Scene. And yes, we want to embed the image in our file. And it's way too big. Let me Control and mouse to zoom out. You can see my page in there. So I'm going to shrink this down to where it'll fit my page. That's close. I'm going to use the side things to snap. I've still got the magnet on, so it's snapping to my border. Bang. There we go. So now I've got my desert scene as the background of my QSL card. Here it is, image 1. I'm going to double click and I'm going to name that desert background. Now, this is nice and vibrant. I might want to make it a little bit less vibrant. I want it to be more of a background. I don't want it to overshadow the text I'm going to lay on the top of it. So I'm going to show you some tools that we have here in our layers. There's a little eye here I can turn things on and off with while I'm working. So if I don't want to be distracted by the background while I'm working on something else, I can turn it off. This lock locks that element so I can't accidentally change it. If I was out here moving around and I clicked with my mouse, oops, I accidentally drug that out of place. I don't want to be able to do that. I might lock that layer. Now I can't do that. I can move around that background white image, which I don't want to do, so we'll lock that as well. Page white, I'll lock that. Now I'm not going to accidentally move that layer around. This other tool that we have here is the opacity tool right here on layers. So I can adjust that right here and make it a little transparent. You see, so it's a little more subtle. It won't overshadow the text I'm going to lay over it. I think I like it about there. So we'll do that. So now I got a nice background image. Let's add some text, and we'll start with our call sign. So I'm going to come up here to Layer 2. I'm going to rename that Text. So I'm going to put all my text objects under the text layer. We'll come over here to the Text tool, and I'll select that. Now up here at the top, you can see these changed. This is now giving us a font selection, a style, and a size. I want a big font for my call sign, so I'm going to take that up to, say, 72 points. I'll come down here and I'll click anywhere in the image, and there we go, KB9 RLW. Right, that's maybe a little bit too big. Let's double click to select it and drop that down to, say, 56 points. That looks about right. I'll change over to the selector tool. Now I can move it around. Oh, I don't want it to snap to the border. I want to get close to the border, but I don't want it to snap the border. So I'm going to turn off the snapping tool. I want to put that there. Now I can move it around right about there. Now you'll notice it's white. Remember we were setting our page white, so that was our last color. So I'll come over here to the Fill and Stroke menu, and now we're going to talk about stroke as well. But first, let's do fill. I want to fill it with a solid color, but I'm going to fill it with black. So I'll take the luminosity right down to 0. Now it's black. Let's talk about stroke. Stroke paint and stroke style. A stroke is a line, or in the case of text, an outline. This text is outlined by a 0.1 millimeter line right now. That's the setting I had the last time I used the program. To make it more clear, I'm going to change that to 2 millimeters. But you don't see anything. And the reason for that is stroke paint is set to none. If I set it to paint, well, it's black, so we can't really tell. Let's change to a color. Now we can see the difference. So we've created this really thick outline that's green around our text. Well, we don't want that. But we can change that here. I could make it a 1 millimeter. Now it's a well-defined outline. And maybe I want the text to stand out from the image a little bit, so I'm going to change that to about 0.5 millimeter. Now we've got just a little bit of an outline. You could also change the style of a line or the outline here. You've got different options here. I can make it dotted if I wanted to. I want it solid. I could put, if it was a line that had a beginning and an ending, these markers would allow me to change it to arrows. I can change the joins at the edges. Right now they're sharp corners. I could make them smooth corners, or I could make them angular corners if it was a line again that had an angle in it. Just doesn't really apply to an outline. But these are all the different tools you could use if you had like a square or a triangle or a line that had an angle to it. You know, you could use these different tools down here. We're only worried in this outline with the width and the color. And I don't really want a green outline. I just want maybe a white, maybe a little bit transparent so it kind of looks like a glow. So that's stroke style and stroke paint or color. And that's what that is. And then fill, of course, is the filling color of the object. So there you go. That's what fill and stroke does. Let's bring back the layer palette. And I'm going to rename this text layer I just put in as call sign so I can keep track. Okay, I've got my call sign. What else do I need? Well, I would need my rest of my information, name, address, and all that. So let's bring back the text tool, and we'll go with a much smaller font, maybe about, start with maybe 16 points. And I'll come up here, and I will click Kevin. 123 Any Street. Okay, this lets us see another tool here. Okay, so we've got our text, and you can see it's center justified. If we come up here, one of these is, here it is. We're center justified. We want to align left. Now they're left justified. I'm going to use the arrow selector tool to move it where I want it. Like so. And you'll notice we've still got our little white outline. Maybe I don't want it here. The background's nice and bright. So let's go back up here to stroke and paint. And I'll take my stroke style and I'll just make that 0 width. There. Now there's no outline. It's just the font. Back to layers. And this is text 2. I'm going to call this one name, address. Always remember to do that. Label things as you go. Believe me, it will help you out later. Okay, now I've got my name and address in there. Now I want to put a box here where I can put in their information, their call sign, and all of that. So I'm going to make a box. We're going to come up here to the rectangle tool, and I'm going to make a box. Don't worry if it's solid like this. We'll change that. Okay, we've got a box. Back to fill and stroke. We do not want it filled, so I will hit the little X for fill. Now it's not filled. We do want a stroke. We do want a line, so I'm going to put a 1 millimeter line on there. And we want that to be black. And let's see. Oh, opacity. No, we want that solid. You could see that that was kind of transparent. See how it's getting more solid there? There we go. We'll just leave these settings here because we're going to draw some more lines. I'll go back to the arrow, and now we've got a box. Maybe 1 millimeter is a bit too thick of a line. Let's make that a little thinner. Okay, that looks better. Okay, I'm going to have some columns in here, but I don't know exactly how I want to space them out yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some more text in there. But first I'm going to go back to my layers and I'm going to organize it a little bit here. So I just made this rectangle and I made it in this text layer. Maybe I don't want that in the text layer. Maybe I want that in a graphics layer. So I'll make a new layer. We'll call it graphics. And I'll take this rectangle and drag it up to graphics. Now it's inside of graphics. And I'm going to call that info box. Okay, but I'm not quite done with that info box. I need to put my put some columns in there, and I need a header where I'm going to put the call sign or confirming QSO for their call sign, date, time, frequency, RST report, and mode. So let's make some vertical lines. This is the pen tool. I'm going to select that, and then up here we have the different modes for the pen tool. Mode of new lines drawn by this tool. There's curves, there's a nice smooth spiral, a B-spline. We want straight lines. So I'm going to select that. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to zoom in again, control on the mouse. And I'm going to put a vertical line. I'm going to put this little crosshair on the other line, and I'm going to click and I'm going to start dragging. And you can kind of see that. See that line there going at different angles? I don't want it to go at an angle. I want it to stay vertical. So I'm going to hold down the control key and it'll snap to angles in 15-degree increments. See it snap? So I'm going to come down here. Now it's going to be vertical. I'm going to take it down to where my crosshairs is on the other line. And then I'm going to release. Now I'm going to right click and we've got a line. Let's do our horizontal line. It's going to go the full width of the box. And if we don't get it exactly perfect, we can fix that. So I'm going to hold down control again, so I'm drawing a horizontal line, and I'm going to come out here to about where I want it, and I'm going to release, and then I'm going to hit the right mouse button to finish the tool, and there we have our vertical line. So I've been drawing lines and moving them around. And so, this looks like it's a little too big here at the bottom. We're going to have a header here. It's going to say confirming QSO, date, time, frequency, RST, mode. And then we're going to write their information in here. So this box probably doesn't have to be quite this big. So I'm going to click on my outer box. I'm going to grab these, pull it up. About like that. Then I need to go in and fix the lines. So I'll zoom in. I'll click on this line. Just grab the little vertical slider and pull it up. Do the same with each of these. You can use, if you hold down the middle mouse button, you can move the whole image, the whole frame. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing that up and then I'm holding the middle mouse button down to slide the whole image over. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. All right, so I want to group all of these lines in this box together so I can move them as one thing. If we come up here into the graphics layer, you can see all these paths that I just made. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, and then the box. So I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to select all of those. Then I'm going to come up here to Object and I'm going to say Group. Now those are all grouped together as a single object. And if you look at our layer under Graphics, you'll see that's a G10. This is the group. If I open that up, there's all our paths. So I'm going to change that name to Info Box Group. Now I can move that entire group so I can put it where I want it to be. Let's put it about there. Let's see where it was. Okay, we're going to add some more text. Okay, go back to I think I want my text layer to be on top. I'm just going to drag my text layer up here, or above graphics, so that my text will be on top of everything. All right, I'm going to make some text. So we're going to make the text label for this. So I'll come over here to the text tool, and we want a smaller font yet, probably somewhere around 12 points. I'm just going to click up here above the box, and I'm going to start typing. Oh, we've got an outline. I thought I turned that off. Stroke 0 and filled. There we go. Okay, right away I can see that's a little big. Let's go down to 10 point. That looks about right. I'll just use spaces and put it where I need it to be. So about centered there. So this will be date, time, MHZ, RST, mode. Okay, I'm not going to get it perfect, but you get the idea. Then I'll just go to the selector tool, and I can take this, and I can move it down in right where I want it. Looks like we could take a space out here. If I double click within a text area, it'll switch back to the editor. And I can do things like that to make a quick adjustment. I want that one more over. There we go. That's good enough. And we'll go back to the selector tool. Now we've got our text in there. Looks good. Except that, you know, it's kind of hard to see over the background image. So I'm going to show you where layers are nice. All right, we're going to go back to our layers. I'm going to go to the graphics layer. So it's selected. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make another box. About as big as my text box. Oh no, he's covering the whole thing up. It's okay. And that's this rectangle here. Now we're going to go up here to fill and stroke. It is filled with a solid color. We're going to fill it with white. And then we're going to put it behind the graphics. So this is where our layers are nice. So here is our rectangle. Even within a layer, it's still top down. The rectangle is above the info box group. See that? That's why it's covering it. So I'm going to take the rectangle, I'm going to drag it below the info box group. There we go. And now it's a background for that group. I still want to see some of my background, though, behind there. So this is where the opacity is going to come in nice. So I'm going to name this rectangle, first off. Back shaded area. I'm going to come over here to opacity for that. Click it and drop that down. There we go. Let's go around 50%. I think that looks good. So now we've got a nice background to help make the text stand out and to make our penmanship stand out when we write in their information. Pretty cool, huh? The other thing I did was I had a remarks area down here. So I'm going to go back to the text layer. I'm going to pick the text tool again. I'll come down here and click and type the word remarks, colon. We're still on white from when we had the other the box selected. So I'm going to come here to fill, bring that down to dark, make that black. There we go. Remarks. And again, I think I'm going to make a box to shade the area. So we'll pick this and we'll just draw a box. Make it about the same size as the other one. And make it white. Go to my layers. Oh, oops, I put it up in my text. I want it down in the graphics as a back shaded area. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it down here. That moved it behind the text. You see that? So the text pops out. And I'm going to set that also to 50% opacity. There we go. So you get the idea. We can just keep on adding elements. I downloaded some other graphics. I had a little Roadrunner. I'll go and import him. There he is right at the top, Roadrunner. I got him from another place I like to go to, and that is svgrepo.com. They do mostly icon-sized stuff, but they are vector graphics. So this Roadrunner is actually intended to be a small icon. But it's an SVG, so scalable vector graphics. So let's go back to Inkscape. Oops. So when I import that Roadrunner, you can see he's quite large, even though it's meant to be an icon. I'll hold down Control and use the mouse wheel to scroll out. We'll select our selector tool and we will shrink him down. Put him up in there. Maybe I want him to stand on that box, like so. Might still be just a little too big. Let's shrink him down. There we go. Put him on the edge of our box, like so. And there's our Roadrunner. So that's how you can do it. You can just, add elements as you like. You can adjust them real quick. If you keep your layers all organized over here, it's very quick and easy to work with things. And you can build up your own QSL card. When you're all done and you're happy with it, come up here to the File menu and select Export. That's going to open another tab up over here, the Export tab. And we can come down here and we can select the format that we want to export it in. If you're just doing it for a website or something, or a picture to send to somebody, you might use JPEG. If you're going to use it for your eQSL, you want a higher quality image, perhaps you'll use PNG, Portable Network Graphics. That'll preserve all the layers, which is kind of nice. If you're going to send it up to a print shop to have it printed, I would recommend using PDF format. Portable document format. That'll ensure that everything is absolutely accurate, the font, the text, all of it. Everything will be perfect when they get it. And you won't have to worry about pixelization too much. Although you can set that here, this dots per inch. You will want to up that. If you're sending it out to be printed, I would go to at least 600 dots per inch. And then that'll be a high enough resolution to look really nice on the card. It won't look pixelated or jaggy. So that's consideration too. But that does make the bitmap image larger if you're exporting it to be used with eQSL. I don't know what their limits are on size. You might have to consider that and set this manually if you're exporting this as a JPEG or PNG for eQSL. But then after you're done with that, here you can choose the file path where you want it to go, where you want it to save, and you just hit the export button and it'll spit out whatever format you desire, and you'll have your QSL card all ready to send off to be printed. There's a lot more that we can do here. There's a lot of power in Inkscape. This was as short as I could make this and cover all of the details I think needed to be covered. I hope you found that useful, and I hope you make up some really nice looking QSL cards out there. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not already a subscriber, click to subscribe. Join us on the Facebook channel for discussion about the videos. And if you'd like to help support this channel, please click to support me on my Patreon page.